High ISO on your camera does not cause more noise in your image, and this comment just goes to show the misconceptions that I was trying to explain in my last video. You see, something that goes on with camera sensors nowadays is that there's no invariance in the noise as you raise the ISO. So what you hear very often is that people tell you you should boost the ISO as much as you can in camera, because if you do that in post, you're gonna get more and worse noise. But outside of the little bit of noise reduction that your camera is doing when you boost the ISOs to try to compensate, which you can also do in post yourself and get a better result, you're not gonna see any noticeable or discernible difference in the noise. So to prove that, I took this camera that I'm shooting on right now, the FX3, just because it has less megapixels, so it'll be easier to see the noise profile, and I shot this photo right here. Now it's clearly underexposed, so then what I did is I raised the exposure by exactly 3 stops up to ISO 800 and took the picture again. Then we can compare what the noise profile on that picture looks like to the noise profile on that first photo and raised exactly 3 stops of exposure in post. And we can see that there's no discernible difference between the noise in the two. And this is even taking into consideration the extra noise reduction that the camera might be doing in its image processing pipeline. If you want to boost the ISO of your camera, that is 100% fine. There's nothing wrong with boosting the ISO just to get the exposure that you want when you're looking at the back of the screen. But you can't convince yourself that you're getting somehow less noise than if you were to do that in post. Unless your camera has a dual gain pipeline and you're actually getting less noise when the camera switches over to a different ADC, you're not gonna get less noise raising the ISO in camera. And where this actually comes into play and where it becomes a problem isn't when someone just wants to take a photo and then they just, oh, there's a little bit of extra noise in the photo. It's when their brain goes to, oh, I want less noise, so I'm gonna raise the ISO in my camera, not I'm going to get the exposure right and add more light into the scene. Again, through some sort of physical means like lowering the shutter speed, opening up your aperture, or actually getting more light into your scene. Like I said in the last video, your camera is essentially nothing but a light sensor. And the sensor is like a ton of tiny little buckets that absorb photons of light. So if you could imagine that the bucket is about this big, and at the very bottom of the bucket is noise, and at the very top of the bucket, if you overflow it, that's where you get clipping, where there's no detail anymore and it's too bright. So if you don't have enough light hitting your sensor, your image is gonna live very close to that noise flow. So regardless if you boost it in camera or you boost it in the computer, you're bringing up the exact same noise floor. There's no difference between the two, again, outside of any noise reduction that your camera might be doing, and typically it's gonna do a worse job than you could do yourself in post. Hopefully this was helpful at all. If you guys have any questions about it, leave those in the comments. Peace out.